Hi, this is Gunchkin-kun, and this is my State of the Game video on the current state of Dead by Daylight that I mentioned I would be making in my last Dead by Daylight video featuring the Plague. In the background is some Adept Ash playthrough. Nothing too crazy, nothing too fancy. My teammates are a bunch of potatoes. This is rank reset, low ranks and whatnot, since I don't typically play Survivor as much as I do play Killer. But anyway, back to the topic at hand, the state of the game. Since my Plague video, they've released like 2 patches, and they changed the queue system like 3 times. They changed it to a new system, then they changed it slightly, and then they reverted back. So it's back to where it was like pre-Plague. So they're about to release their private dedicated. They're about to not private. They're about to release their dedicated servers for the game. That's going to be testing on PC soon. So everyone's excited about that. They did fix a lot of issues. One of my main gripes was how the audio bugs with the Spirit. Whenever she used her power, she made an annoying, loud, crunching glass sound. That's horrendous on the killer's end, and the survivor could even hear her because the sound would activate whenever she used her power, which the survivor shouldn't be able to hear to begin with. But anyway, they fixed that. The Spirit's even actually more quieter than ever now. She's nowhere near as loud as she once was, so I'm glad about that. Beyond that, it's a lot of quality of life changes. They changed the ranking system, which is going to be my main focus. Basically, everyone had to do a lot more on Survivor and Killer side. Survivors had to rescue, unhook, heal, do more gens, be chased interact with the Killer for a certain amount of time, and on the Killer end, Killers had to get 3 hooks in, make sure they're not sitting near the hook survivor, and they also had to make sure that not all gens get done, and they basically kill all the survivors. The problem with the new ranking system is that it made it almost nigh-high impossible, not impossible, but it was just really hard to rank up on either end, Survivor or Killer, because you had to have a near perfect game on either end, Survivor or Killer, to just rank up. Like games that you would normally pip up twice, you would no longer pip, you would safety pip in these situations. And for example, like you get a 4K as Killer, and you can black pip now, even if you get a 4K as Killer. Even if you escape, you do enough gens, you could black pip or lose a pip as Survivor. But they recently changed it on the Survivor's end with a recent patch to actually make it easier. You have to do less now to rank up as Survivor. They did not do any changes for Killer, so that was my main gripe, is that it's actually easier to pip as Survivor than it is to pip as Killer now. It doesn't matter, it just is. That's just the facts, because for example, Killers have to micromanage making sure no more than a certain amount of gens get done. They have to get at least 3 hooks on Survivors, and pray that no one DCs, because if you DC, granted, the Killer gets the points for the DC for the quit, but they do not get points, it doesn't count as a hook. So you're basically preventing, Survivors could prevent a Killer from pipping up if they DC like right from the get-go or before their 3rd hook. And yeah, you're basically having to micromanage, making sure like no more than like 2 or 3 gens get done. You have to make sure you kill everyone, and you have to pray to God that no one DCs. Granted, it is easier to pip on lower ranks, and what I'm talking about is typically the requirements to pip up in, like, was it purple? I think it's purple red. Yeah, purple and red ranks. it's a lot harder to pip up for Survivor or Killer on either of those color ranges. But for the most part, yeah, they made it slightly easier to pip as Survivor, and they did not do any changes for Killer. I'm praying that they actually make it easier, because as others have said it, probably better than I am currently saying, it's ridiculous how much you have to do on either end just to rank up. And you have to rely on people not disconnecting. You have to rely on the Killer not disconnecting and the Survivor not disconnecting. Because I've as a Survivor recently, just while I was recording this today, I played a game and the Survivor DC'd at the beginning, and I lost a pip. So yeah, disconnecting, DCing is a major issue right now. There needs to be some kind of fix for this. I don't know why, because beforehand, under certain situations, you wouldn't lose anything. If the Killer DCs, you wouldn't lose anything. I think that was like the ranking system before. If they disconnect sooner rather than later, granted you would not necessarily pip up, but you wouldn't lose a pip. Now you actually lose a pip if they disconnect really early. There needs to be some kind of punishment for disconnects on Survivor and Killer end. It's just getting to the point where it's just really not fun, and it's really hurting the game, the base game right now. My issue is that it's not the new content is great. I love how with each new release of new content, the quality of the content is going up. I loved Demise of the Faithful chapter. I love Ash Evil Dead chapter. I love it. But the problem is that my gripe is that while they're releasing better and newer content, they're not fixing the problems or the newer problems that are introduced with these patches quick enough. And that's really hurting the game situation. Like the new ranking system with disconnects, it just hurts the base game so bad in terms of ranking up or doing anything. It just makes the game really unfun. And I don't see why Survivor should get punished when a Killer DCs. I don't get that. And I don't see why a Killer should get punished by not being able to rank up because of Survivor DCs. If Behavior wants this game to be competitive, then they need to have similar disciplinary actions that other competitive games have. They need to have some kind of timeout feature to the point where you could possibly get banned for a season, or banned for life even. Other games with competitive natures like Overwatch and Rainbow Six The Siege, I think it's Rainbow Six The Siege, they have timeout features to the point where you'll eventually get banned from the season, or banned from the mode entirely eventually. In Overwatch, they also have an experience decreaser, so you gain less experience points from each game that you play, competitive or quick play or whatever, so you get less points for loot boxes. It becomes a lot slower. I just don't get if you're going to have disconnects and you're going to have nobody punishing those people who you abuse disconnects, then people are just going to continue disconnecting whenever they feel dissatisfied or they're no longer having fun with the game. So there needs to be some kind of disciplinary action to coordinate with people's bad behavior of disconnecting from games early. And there shouldn't be any actions taken to those that are still playing the game. If survivors are still playing the game, they should not get punished for a killer feeling salty by disconnecting. They shouldn't be punished for that. If a killer is doing well and a survivor DCs before the third hook, that DC should count as the DC should automatically count for the rest of the hooks, regardless of where if they've been hooked once or twice. They should get the remaining hook points for it. In the recent developer update, they talked about the end game changes called World Collapse, which will possibly affect the hatch standoff as well. I'm looking very forward to that. I'm also looking forward to the complete and utter rework of Freddy. He's getting a total overhaul, so he's gonna be pretty much a brand new killer. I'm looking very forward to that, but I'm more concerned about the ranking system still, and the fact that there's still some odd bugs here and there that they have yet to fix, such as the infamous wiggle bug. That still exists. I don't know why that has not been fixed yet. I just don't know. They are looking into the less than 5 players per match situation right now. They're looking forward to fixing that. I am hopeful, because I really like to see this game thrive, but I guess we'll just have to accept the minor health changes to the game that we are getting sooner rather than later. This is Genshin Kun, and until next time, sayonara.